All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll get it kicked off. Quiet group today. So welcome to this week's edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. Thank you for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to spend it here in the spirit of community, mentorship, and learning. I'm your host, Geraldine Hall. I'm a customer success manager at Salesforce and a military trailblazer. Each week, we invite a co-host or co-hosts to take part in the conversation so that we can leverage their experience, expertise, and unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session, which is our fourth and final out of this topic, is get your reps in, ideas for practical application and tips for generating alternative work experience. So if you have been looking for creative ways to build experience while looking to land your first role or even skill up for future roles, this is the session for you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So first, I would like to welcome and briefly introduce our co-host panel for tonight's session. Jeff Douglas, Julie Workman, and Kelley Babbs. These three probably do not need any introduction. Most of you probably know who they are, but I will go through a few things about them. Jeff is a product manager director for Salesforce internal developer experience at Salesforce. He's an Army veteran, and two of his daughters are one is an Army spouse and one is an Army veteran. So they are both related to the military. They went through VetForce and they are now successfully working for consulting companies. He has over 25 years of software experience in cloud computing, application architecture, and community building, and has been recognized as a Salesforce MVP. Last, but certainly not least, he is a member of the original OG team that created Trailhead. There were three of them, building platform tools, applications, modules, projects, Superbadges, and hands-on challenges. That engine that checks your work in your playground org. So pretty amazing to have one of the original creators of Trailhead. So we're going to move on to Julie. Julie is a senior technical program manager at Salesforce. Her husband served in the US Navy, and she has been an advocate for the military community and still is. I will say we should use present tense. She still is a very strong advocate of the military community. She is a winner of the esteemed Golden Hoodie for her demonstration of valuable leadership, technical mastery, and community commitment. She is also a Trailhead Superbadge extraordinaire, leading to the creation of these challenging technical skill assessments. Last but certainly not least, Kelley is a product manager for Trailhead at Salesforce. She is an Army veteran and an Army mom and spouse, and a committed advocate for the Salesforce military community. She is also extremely well regarded amongst her peers for her authentic leadership, genuine kindness, creative acumen, and unparalleled ability to drive product innovation on the Trailhead platform. It is so great to have you all co-hosting office hours with me. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, it is so great. And I love to see the large crowd here today. So it would be great if each of you, I know I just did a wonderful introduction of each of you, but if you wanted to take a moment to introduce yourselves further, share a little bit about your Salesforce story. Jeff, we'll go ahead and we'll have you lead us off. Jeff, you might be on mute.
Sorry, is that better?
Yes, we've got you.
Use the microphone on mute, not the Hangout. So, okay. So I kind of fell in this role. I got my first job as a Salesforce developer back in 2007 when there were no SAP roles available. So I was like, I'll just try this little Salesforce thing. And so that's how I got started. And I worked at a company for about a year or so. Then I worked at a company called Aperio. You'll see a lot of people in the industry who came from Aperio. I was there about 6-7 years and did a number of different roles, mostly consulting, development, project leading, architecting, did that for a while across the US. And then I happened to email the developer evangelist head at Salesforce. I was like, hey, are you guys doing anything fun right now? And he said, we've got this small little project that we're working on. We want to come in and talk about it. So I actually went in there and they offered me a position to work on this new thing called Trailhead. I took over the content side for developers and building a lot of tools. We built the assessments engine, that little check challenge button at the bottom that actually sees if you've done your work right in your org. We built a bunch of Superbadges, a bunch of modules, and then I went over to the MuleSoft side for a while and did some work over there, which was fantastic. Big fan of MuleSoft, and now I am a product manager working on developer tools for our internal Hyperforce developers. And it's been fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you. Julie, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you for this opportunity to connect. I will say in all authenticity that everyone here is just, they're just some of my favorite people, and just, I'm so happy to be here, and also very brave of you because I could talk to Jeff and Kelley for a week straight. So you have to keep us on track. I've been on the Salesforce platform for just a little over a decade and started before there was Trailhead. And so I love Trailhead. I think it's just been a dream come true to work on the Trailhead team and to work with Jeff and Kelley. And actually, Kelley and I got to work together before either of us were at Salesforce, and we were in the military affiliated community supporting veterans and veteran spouses and active duty. And just have such a depth of gratitude for this entire community. So any way that I can give back to the Salesforce community, because so much wisdom has just been shared so freely across our ecosystem. So if there's something I can do to share that back, I love that. I've been in this kind of sort of role for about 5 years, building Superbadges, building Trailhead content. And so if you have a Superbadge that makes you really angry, I did not build that one. But if there's one you really like, Jeff built that one. If there's one that makes you want to throw your laptop, Jeff built that one. The most recent one that I was the project manager for was the prompt builder templates Superbadge, and I love it. If you've heard all the chatter about prompt builder, it really is everything they say and more. It's so cool. It's incredibly powerful. I love playing around with it. I can't believe we get a free dev work with all of these bells and whistles and get to do all of the configuration in there. So I'm super happy to be here. I have 2 young adults in my life. My son is finishing up high school. My daughter's in college. So I have an eye to the job market and getting career ready and breaking into the ecosystem for sure. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Kelley, last but not least, again.
Yeah, I'll take it. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out, not only of your busy evening, but during an exciting week of Dreamforce. I know there's other things you could be watching or streaming right now, so your time here is precious, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. I'm Kelley Babbs. I know most of you. I think there might be 1 or 2 people whose names I definitely recognize, but I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you in person. So fun to see a super friendly crowd here tonight. I accidentally joined the Salesforce ecosystem almost 10 years ago now. Julie's very brief and humble explanation. Julie was my first mentor in the Salesforce ecosystem and within the Trailblazer community. So super lucky and excited to have her insight here tonight. I joined Salesforce about 5 years ago. When I started, I exclusively worked on the Salesforce military platform, has slowly expanded to other workforce development, tech powered by Salesforce, the company and the technology. And I joined the Trailhead team about 2 years ago now as a product manager. So I also have a son who's an aspiring admin. So eyes on the ecosystem, eyes on the market as well, and excited to talk about that tonight.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. So I'm going to do a brief introduction for those that this might be their first time joining us. So for those joining for the first time, I always like to briefly explain the purpose of these office hours. These sessions are an informal get-together for gathering military trailblazers and allies to explore non-technical Salesforce career and branding related topics to help you achieve your professional development and career related goals. The next hour is intended to be an opportunity for collaborative mentorship. Everyone on this call is encouraged to step up and help answer questions from your perspective. That will help provide additional diversity of experience to the answers that are given by our wonderful panel this evening. Please make sure to keep an eye on the chat window during tonight's session. Dave Nava will be posting some great information, great links for you to be able to click on and take outside of this for learning, networking, and employment opportunities. If you would like to ask a question at any point during tonight's session, please feel free to do so. If you feel comfortable speaking up, you can just raise your hand and we'll get to your question. But if you do not, you can also post your question in the chat. Myself and Dave will be monitoring the chat for any questions that might come through, and then we'll also be monitoring for any raised hands. Finally, tonight's session is being recorded. So if you would like to share an attribution-free comment, please let me know before speaking, and we will make sure that it is edited out of the final recording. Okay, so without further ado, we are going to go ahead and jump right into the questions for this evening. So we're going to talk a little bit about trekking on Trailhead, making the most of the free, amazing learning resources that I can imagine every single person in this room right now has taken advantage of. So what advice would you give someone that's just starting their journey on Trailhead? Where should they begin? Kind of for that person ready to take that first leap, what would your recommendations be?
This is definitely a Kelley question.
I was about to say, I'm not volunteering to go first. I just wanted to know, are you going to tag us in or should we jump in?
Yeah, jump in, but I was going to tag Julie if nobody spoke up.
Okay, I'm going to tag Julie for next, but I would say, well, first, shameless plug. I would say no matter how far you've gotten in your Trailhead journey, we should all go back and log in because on Monday, a new personalization wizard launched, which is going to help you get to the content that you want and need faster. We heard you. There's a lot on Trailhead. It's great, amazing content. And sometimes I get a little bit lost. So the personalization wizard is there whether you're new to Trailhead or not. So I would say go in and check that out and kick those tires and see what kind of turns up for you. Second, what launched in tandem with that, which I worked on directly with Catherine Clark, who I know a lot of you know, is we brought a new UI to Trails that really chunks out learning. This should sound very familiar into milestones. There's a progress bar. We brought in some off Trailhead content, lots of good new features on Trails for y'all to go see. And that personalization wizard will power some of that. So apologies, kind of shameless plug, but it's out there now. So there it is.
Typical product manager.
Sorry, I got to do it. I couldn't come tonight and walk away not sharing all the cool new updates that went out this week. But if you're just getting started, there was, I think, 14 badges on Trailhead. So obviously it looked a little bit different for me. But what I like to do now is I go in and I use Trailhead as like a search engine. So when I see things trending, Agent Force, AI, Data Cloud, when I see topics trending that I'm not super familiar with, I'll go in and just kind of search Trailhead, search the Trailblazer community, see what's going on there, and start kind of picking things to learn. That could work and should work if you're brand new to Trailhead and haven't even earned a single badge yet. Go in and do the Trailhead basics, the get to know Salesforce. I mean, get your feet under you and start just really understanding what some of the vocabulary is. We do have, like any major ecosystem, our own set of words, acronyms, and language. So I'd say don't be afraid to start at the very basics and just kind of get your feet under you to understand what is this even, and then kind of start taking it from there.
And I would chime in and say also that that's a great point. There is a lot of stuff. Sometimes you look at it and your eyes just glaze over. But I would just, if I was new, I would just kind of like poke around at the high level stuff and see what interests you. Do you look for kind of stuff that interests you, more of a BA or an administrator? What kind of looks good? And maybe take a broad range and then kind of like, oh, you know, I really like doing reports. I like dashboards and field level security. Not so much about writing JavaScript code. So I'm going to kind of stay over here this way. And don't get frustrated or anxious about it either. There's a lot of stuff, but it's super bite size. I remember my daughter was going through Trailhead. She was 9 months pregnant and she could only do a few minutes at a time. So she would do one module, go lay down for a while, get back up and do another project, go lay down for a while. So don't get stressed out about how much there is to do. Just take it slow. Maybe your goal is do one module a day, or 5 a week, whatever. But take it slow and don't get anxious and over because there's so much to do.
Yeah, love those points. Love both of those points. Dave, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, just a quick comment to Kelley's point, right? Those intro to Salesforce trails and trailheads, or trailhead modules and trails, are also really excellent if you're not a newcomer. If you've been in the ecosystem for a while and your customers are asking you, hey, how can I upskill on the platform? I've got a new person at the company and we bought Salesforce last year. How do I get them up to speed? I have like several trails and trail mixes that I have like I keep tabs on so that I can send them to customers really, really quickly when they ask. That's another good use of those.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kelley.
I just had one more thought on this. And it was my gut answer. So when you said, like, where do we suggest new folks get started? And I think it's a little bit less about where for me and a little bit more about how. You can read something for the sake of scanning the text and answering a couple of questions, or you can read to learn, and you can do the hands-on challenges to learn. So I think it's more important that you go there with the intent to learn versus what are you going to learn. Obviously, we got to get you to the right place and you got to start with the right content. But really making sure you're in a learner's mindset when you're doing any modules is probably going to take you a lot farther than just clicking through them for the sake of getting them done.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff.
And I would also say that one of the best things to do is do the modules and projects that have hands-on challenges. Anybody can read through text, but the great thing about Trailhead is it allows you to have a free org and try things out. Do everything that you would do if you had a job doing this role. So that's where I think you really learn. That's the secret sauce of Trailhead, is the hands-on challenges. And I'm just a tad bit biased, but yes.
And I would add to that, we have some really cool hands-on challenge content that's all grouped under the Superbadge page. And all of the Superbadges are really, if you're weighing, are these just more intense learning? They're not learning at all. They are actually testing, not teaching. It's a very different experience. And when you get to a Superbadge, it's not going to give you a click path or steps to follow. So it could be confusing if you're not orienting yourself towards, this is a very different experience, right? They're going to have prerequisites that you need to complete before you can unlock the Superbadge. And then you're going to work through and see requirements that are very intentionally, very real world. And I promise you, we work with the customers and partners directly to make sure that the challenges that you're seeing are literally things that are happening in the real world that people have to solve for. And then you'll get a special kind of a Trailhead org, a dev org, and configure your solution according to the requirements. So before Trailhead, before Superbadges, the best test prep advice that I ever got was to take a dev org and go into setup and just turn everything on and see what it did. And that's actually still really fun. I still recommend that as something to do, kind of off script, off Trailhead. But doing that, you kind of don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes you don't necessarily see what happened. You can't really tell. Okay, so I enabled person accounts. What does that do? You don't really know. So I love the Superbadges, especially the ones we've been creating for the past few years. They're called Superbadge units. And they're not necessarily bite size, but they're more meal size. And you should be able, if you have the prerequisite learning, you should be able to complete them in about an hour. And so it's going to give you a real world opportunity experience. So you're going to go in, it's not going to tell you how to do it, but it's going to tell you what the end result should be. And you're going to go through, configure your solution. You're going to use our assessment engine that Jeff Douglas was talking about. And it's going to go look in your org and see if it was configured as expected. And we try to be really clear. We're not tricky. We don't try to be tricky. If you think something's tricky, let us know. But we try to be really clear about what we want to see there, what we're testing for. And then the assessment engine is going to go look and see if you configured your org just as expected. It's going to give you a sort of a go, no go, and you'll progress through. And so that's my favorite way, obviously, or with our hands-on Superbadges.
I'm gonna.
Awesome. And I know, Jeff, I will say that I very much appreciate, I'm sure others on this call, that when you don't configure it correctly, it gives you some nice helpful hints on what you did not do right. So thank you for that, for those of us that at times struggle through Superbadges.
We all struggle through.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's the
say.
point.
I was gonna say Julie's right. The new Superbadge sets are kind of like the charcuterie board of learning. They're just enough
Ooh.
for you to get you, you're good to go. But no, but honestly, when we started Superbadges, I don't know how long we started them ago, but Julie, I love this story. We actually wrote 4 in like 2 months, which you can't do that anymore. But we wanted to do it like it was a real world example. You just got a job as a consultant and you're walking the company and they're saying, here's what our current processes are. Here's what our current org is. Here's what we want to do. There's all the information we know. Our data is super clean. Don't worry about that. But just go ahead and get started, building this service for us. And I think we've kind of kept that spirit throughout here. So they're very challenging, but they're meant to be challenging for that reason. So when you complete one, you should be very proud of yourself because they're not meant to be easy.
That's spot on. And then Iris, you were saying, you say an hour until it isn't configured quite properly, then you might get a different experience. And that's so true. And we have had, and so the Superbadge units, there are exceptions, but a lot of them we test and we make sure we have lots of testers who have done the prerequisite learning and that they're coming in about an hour for most of them. And we'll note it if it's not an hour. But I know I at one point suggested that we write a help article that is solely for when people are angry about Superbadges. That would be like, take a breath, take a walk, take a nap, and get some food, and take a little reset because it can get frustrating. But then 99 times out of 100, we'll actually get feedback where someone will go, I was so angry about this. But then I came back and read it, and then I saw, oh, it was actually part of the requirements that I just didn't read. And let me tell you, as someone who has had a couple different stints in different Salesforce implementation partner roles, that's really real world when something does get stuck and there isn't an easy answer and it is frustrating. And then you come back and it's like, oh, because I didn't activate the approval process, So they can be frustrating, but so can the real world. So,
but that's how you learn the best, I think.
Yeah, right. When you were snarling at your family. That's right.
Yes, absolutely. I have had many a times with that. So I understand that, Iris. Okay, so let's switch just a little bit. Jeff, you had touched on this slightly when you were talking about just go out and explore kind of different things in Trailhead, try different like developer tracks and everything. But so how can Trailhead help someone explore different career paths within the Salesforce ecosystem? Let's say, I know when I came in, I thought, oh, you can be an admin or you can be a developer or a consultant. Like that's it. That's all there is. That's out there. So how can people utilize Trailhead to really help them find what career path might be good for them in the ecosystem?
Well, I'll explain a little bit now, but then I'll let Kelley do a better job of it in a minute here. But it's broken down into tracks, which is really nice. The base level is like just general Salesforce knowledge, which is great, and then you start drilling down on different tracks, and you can just look at on those different tracks and take some of these higher level modules and figure out what speaks to you. Are you really into data? I have a daughter she's really weird. She's marketing. She has a marketing cloud cert and a Pardot cert, and she just really loves data. So that really drew her into it. Some people are very logical and want step by step by step. I want to do all these things. And some people are like, developers, and they just love slinging code. They may have come from a different ecosystem where they have a different language, but they can pick up Salesforce very easily. So I would just go through the different modules and just try them all out and see. It's good learning either way, because if you down the road become a BA, you may now have a little bit of experience developing, or you may know a little bit more about data cloud now. So that's my recommendation. So I'll let Kelley do a much better job than me.
Jeff, I don't know if you saw my note in chat, but you can't take my answer and then kick it to me. That's
what I do. That's what I do as a product manager. So yeah.
So yes to everything Jeff said. There are career specific trails that I would recommend you at least read about them, read the overviews, get into a few modules. You may not want to knock the whole trail out, especially if you realize right away, you know, this isn't my cup of tea. Kind of like when I looked at the developer trail and I was like, I'm going to leave that for other folks. There's also, let me share a link. There's also a career path exploration tool on Trailhead that can be helpful, especially if you're just getting started and you're not familiar. But I'm going to take a little bit of a sideway on this. I would suggest also Trailblazer community groups, networking, get to know folks in the ecosystem. I'm much like you, Geraldine. I thought like an admin was an admin and that's all you do forever. And the reality is that rarely are you a pure admin. That's actually less common than all the other types of roles. Working with the Salesforce military community for the last 5.5 years, I've seen folks land every title you can imagine, which adds to the ambiguity of it and does make it harder. But that's where those connections are valuable. Get to know folks. What's your title? Tell me more about that. What does that look like? What does that entail? You know, so yes, there are tons of resources on Trailhead, but also look to your left and right and look at your peers. Julie, do you have anything?
I couldn't agree with you more. And actually, Jeff, there was a Tampa Bay user group meeting years and years and years ago, and I was like, that's Jeff Douglas. And we were meeting at the coupon place. Do you remember there's like a huge coupon place? They print coupons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tell it, was it Valpak?
Valpak, yes. And I was like, that's Jeff Douglas. And so, Kelley, I could not agree more. I feel like that's also a place where you can show up as your genuine self. And I know my first couple moments in the Trailblazer community, I would literally go up to people and be like, thank you for that presentation. I have no idea what you said. What is flow? I don't understand. And they're, you know, it's just a really great and authentic way to connect with people. And also flow is a great skill. So there's a ton of hands-on content around flow on Trailhead. But Jeff, I want to co-sign what you said about just checking out some other things, because I wish someone had really said that to me a long time ago, because I was in such the admin track, admin and then consultant. And I'll be real honest. If I had been brave enough, why wasn't I? I don't know. But if I had been brave enough to do platform developer PD1, study for that certification, which I eventually did to get the platform, platform app architect. I was in there, I was studying for things and I was like, oh, that solution I built could have been a lot better if I had just not been scared to write a 4-line Apex class, or, to copy a trigger that's already been provided here in some other example space. So I think that was really important, Jeff, is to just go see what's out there. Don't pigeonhole yourself and be brave. I used to say, we were doing sessions and I was like, just go for different certification exams. Everyone fails and learns from those failures in certification exams. And David Nava said, no, not everyone fails certification exams. Some people never fail. And I said, that's good to know.
I don't know if you haven't failed your first admin exam. I don't know if you're actually studying, because that's the way to do it. I mean, I think almost everybody's failed their first exam. So
ask David.
So he is the exception.
Yeah.
Exception, not the norm. Not the norm is what I will say, everyone. Yeah, me too, Dave. Julie, I love what you said about the Trailblazer community. So I think talking to people, I think people have kind of this thought that, well, I don't have a certification, or I'm just so brand new, like I can't go to a community group, right? And I just want to emphasize how supportive the Trailblazer community groups are, and that you will have people that are at every end of the spectrum. You'll have people that have been in the ecosystem for 20 years, right? And you'll have people who are brand new. So don't be afraid to get out there and just go. Learn what you can, and especially the networking pieces, because As a lot of us know, those remote positions are not quite as prevalent as they were previously. And so going to your local community group, if you have one, that's going to help you find people who could be working in your community and have job opportunities. So definitely don't be afraid to step out there when it comes to Trailblazer community groups. Jeff.
Yeah, and that same thing. We went to there was a Salesforce developer. It was actually Florida Dreamin'. And my daughter went with me to Florida, and she's the marketing cloud expert. And she met a guy there who's a golden hoodie. I can't remember what his name is. He's in the marketing cloud really big, or maybe it's it's Pardot. And we started talking, and we found out he literally lives 3 miles from her. So the people you're going to meet at these conferences is fantastic. And I would encourage you not to go to a lot of friends. I would go there and meet people and start networking, because everybody's super friendly at these meetups. They're all great. Everybody just wants to help. It's amazing. I mean, I worked in the SAP community for a long time and some other communities, but this is the friendliest, most helpful community you will ever find.
I think for a long time, the number one question and answer on the success community on the Trailblazer community was, why are people so nice? Literally, the number one most answered question was, why is everyone so nice here? And it was just, that's the culture in the community. Jeff, you mentioned Marketing Cloud, and we don't have hands-on dev environments for Marketing Cloud, but what you can do if you have background in marketing is think about data from a marketing perspective. We do have a lot of content around things like segmentation and how do you build data models. Kelley is a Marketing Cloud champ. She can tell you about this. You can take the concepts about marketing and still get a lot of value out of Trailhead, and think about, okay, if I've got my CRM and my CRM is going to power my Marketing Cloud, what might that look like? How could I set up my CRM to support segmentation, or build out a preference center, or how can I do things? So, if we're talking about like specific marketable skills, there's still a ton on Trailhead or in your dev orgs that you can get through Trailhead work, that you can still apply these concepts anywhere. And then we've got so much on Data Cloud and Prompt Builder and just a ton of cool new stuff.
Yeah, I would recommend everybody dig in the Data Cloud. That's the future. And I know, Kelley, isn't there some new stuff on Data Cloud in Salesforce and in Trailhead now?
Yeah, a bunch. I mean, I'm not going to be able to list them out, but a bunch obviously launched this week. There's a lot of new content, actually, not just around Data Cloud. Agent Force, there's a bunch of new content around that. I recommend you guys go check that out. And some new Salesforce Foundations content. So if you're doing anything in parallel, I hope you are. I'm staring deep into the camera right now, watching as many sessions as you can. Of Dreamforce, there's tons of content to complement what you guys are hearing in keynotes and seeing people present on. Go check it out. I did have a note though, back to the community groups. One last piece is, when I first started looking at them, I was in an admin role, so I was looking for admin groups, and it didn't occur to me that I could go to a developer community group. I could go to the nonprofit community group. So if you don't have a specific one for the exact role you're interested in, just go. It's fine. Just go. You'll learn stuff. You'll meet people. They're just as nice, even if they're on different paths. But don't let not seeing a very specific group deter you from participating.
Absolutely. And they're usually super fun. There's most of the time food involved and swag. So it's always a good time. At least the ones that I've been to. Okay, so we are a little bit past our. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
the developer groups are not weird. I would go to a developer group. I mean, the solution architect or the solution engineers are the weird ones. Let's let you guys know that right now. Those are the weird guys.
Yeah, those Dave Navas,
Guilty.
Never putting anything into production. I'm just going to show you how things work and then throw it away and go do something else. Yeah, demo. Yeah, it's a great job, by the way.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so we're a little bit past halfway point, and this is where we get our wonderful group photo of everyone. It's important because we always need to be branding. I'll plan on sharing this photo on LinkedIn and Twitter within the next couple of days, and we'll tag everyone in the photo. So if you only have your first name showing in Google Meet and you would like to be tagged, please feel free to include your full name in the chat window. It makes it much easier for us to be able to tag you in the photo. And then for everyone who wants to participate in the photo, please go ahead and unmute or turn on your video, and we will grab a snapshot of everyone. And we'll give, if you could refrain from any comments so that we don't cover up anyone's face during this, that would be fantastic. All right, looks like everybody has their, yep, okay, all right, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we are good to go. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. All right, so we are going to speak a little bit more about, excuse me, Superbadges and showcasing some real world skills using Superbadges. So Julie, you may want to answer this one first, but how can the hands-on experience that's gained from Superbadges provide a strong foundation for success on certification exams, right? Because most people are either studying for their certifications exams or like getting ready, looking at the next one to do. So how can they really use those Superbadges to help complement and prepare them for their certification exams?
That's such a great point, is that they really do go hand in hand. And for a lot of us, we can take, we can read some of the learning content and, work through it mentally. But when you get hands-on and you really are reading through the requirements and have to configure a dev org to sort of give you the answer that's expected, it really makes things, for me, solidify and fall into place. So my favorite example, my don't tell the others that this is my favorite child, is definitely our new prompt builder templates Superbadge unit. It really does only take an hour. A lot of people do it in under an hour if you've done all the prerequisite content and then some of the other great stuff that we have on Trailhead. But when I was building it, when our team was building this, I literally went and got my family. I was like, look what this prompt builder can do. And it really does all the things that you see in some of the, fancy videos where it's using these large language models, but it's using our natural type of language. And you're putting in, instead of building out, an Apex class and if-then statements and really trying to think through a decision tree, you're really building these prompts that are saying things like, I want you to go look at all of the information in this field or in multiple related records or an entire list of related records and translate it or summarize it or interpret it or ping it against this Apex class, use this Apex class to ping it against our list of programs and combine preferences and our, a constituent or a customer's preferences with our company's programs. And I want you to generate an email based on this person's attributes and what we can offer, and write me an email that I could send to them that would say, hey, it looks like you might be interested. And then, I'll edit it. And the fact that you really can do that, and you can go through this free hands-on challenge content and work through building out that configuration, building out that tool. When you go and you're answering questions about Prompt Builder on the AI Specialist certification exam, it's a completely different experience, because having that hands-on piece really helps it land. And David, thank you for posting that. I hadn't seen that post that you shared about the exciting opportunity. It sounds like everybody's going to be an AI specialist really soon. So then everybody needs to go take this Superbadge unit so that they can work through Prompt Builder.
Yeah, but Julie,
there's a lot of examples like that where they go hand in hand.
This AI thing, does it have legs? Will it be around for a while, you think?
Next Tuesday, at least. Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I one of my favorite Dreamforce sessions that I've listened to so far was actually the one where Mark Benioff was interviewing Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, and talking about just like the speed of change and everything that's going on, and like do we really think this is it? And I think the thing that got me the most excited is how they were talking about just like these next 10 years is just going to be the most exciting time to be working in tech because of just the amazing things that we could not do before. Like ask me, 3 years ago when I jumped in the ecosystem of prompt builder, if I was going to be using AI to help with stuff, I never would have really imagined that this was happening and coming. And so just to think about all the changes that are coming in, all the exciting things and how much more we're going to be able to do is really an exciting time to be in the ecosystem and working in technology for sure.
And this is not necessarily directly certification exam related, but it all kind of is, right, in building skill. Before we had Trailhead, we used to say, and this still stands, go grab one of the dev orgs and build it out for something that you do in your life. So, Rad Women Code uses a ton of amazing recipes, or, people have used their dev orgs to plan their weddings or track their home renovation. So do the same thing, but try writing prompt templates and try and figure out, I think I saw something about, Mark Benioff using AI as a counselor, and I'm going, that could be interesting, build out your own life coach. There's like all kinds of stuff that you can do. And I think the more real world applications, whether it comes in the form of a super badge or whether it comes in the form of you tracking, I used to reward my kids for doing Trailhead, but they had to track it in a dev org, the amount, of work that they did. So you do anything. You can be as nerdy as you want.
Julie, speaking to your practical real life application, when I started learning Salesforce on Trailhead in combination with help and training documentation and Google, one of the first things I did was I built out, I was also my daughter was in second grade at the time. I was the room mom, and I built out the schedule of parties, and I can't even remember how it's set up now. I had it for years, but that was the way I connected the dots. For those that don't know, I came from a non-corporate, non-business world background. So things like opportunities and funnels that didn't really mean anything to me. Didn't know a lot about it, but I did know how to manage a classroom. And so that was my translation to understanding what a lot of these meant. So when I had a mom, there it is. When I had a mom that would raise her hand and say, I can do the Valentine's party, she became an opportunity, and I knew to follow up with her. And so just, yes, co-sign the build it for something you do understand. If something's not making sense, just try to reframe it into something that does.
I want to give you another example. So you brought up building it for your school. The same year I joined Salesforce, my wife and my son and I started a brewery. And so I ran my brewery's operations off a DE org for like a year until I actually paid for the money for it. But yeah, you can build it for anything. So it's definitely plausible. I would just say go out and build stuff. Just build stuff.
Yeah, I think especially a lot of us as we get a little older in years, like the hands-on really helps things stick. At least for me, I feel like there's just not a lot of space left in my brain, and I've got to find the best way for that stuff to stick in there. And hands-on seems to be a very helpful way to get those concepts to stick. Okay, so one more question specifically around Superbadges, Trailhead. So how have you all seen people be able to successfully market or put out there that they've completed Superbadges, they've completed certain modules, whether it be on a resume or in LinkedIn? What's the best way for them to kind of promote those skills? Kelley.
I'm going to edge Kelley out. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead. I mean, you're literally the expert here. That's why I shot my hand up, because I was like, I want to get in line before Julie says it. Do you want to go first, Julie?
I was just going to say they really are technical skills assessments, and it's fun to say super badge, but we've seen them, if a hiring manager is managing many different types of employees and many different technology solutions, super badge, maybe not. Technical skills assessment, yes. Ability to demonstrate hands-on, yes. Ability for me to show you my setup audit trail and show you how I worked through this in an interview, absolutely. So sometimes reframing it and just using plain language and saying, these are my skills assessments that I've done can be helpful.
Iris, did you want to go? Okay. So Julie was just a great segue into exactly what I was about to say. One of the best ways I've ever seen it is they treated it as if they were describing the same way you would like a work project from a former employer. They quantified it. I built this many automated processes. I, reduced this percentage of redundancy. So taking it for what it is, which is practical application, and describing it in a professional way. Yes, Trailhead's fun. Superbadges is super fun, but your hiring manager unfortunately may not know what any of that means. And what they do know is the business translation of it.
Jeff?
Yeah, I would say, don't get me wrong, I love certification. I've got a bunch of them also, but there's people who have like 25 certs and 0 super badge completions. I would rather see people who have 2 or 3 or 4 certs, they're working in a certain area and they've got a bunch of super badges. They've demonstrated that they can do these things, not that they can just take a test. I would, if I was a hiring manager, which I used to be, I would rather see that they've completed all these super badges and they can show me their code versus somebody who has 35 certifications in every part of Salesforce. It's super hard to know everything about Salesforce. I think you should try to focus on certain things. Like I'm gonna do field service, or I do Service Cloud or Sales Cloud or whatever, but try to do everything and be have certifications in every single product we have. To me, that looks like you're just collecting certifications. But if you've got super badge qualifications, that means a lot more, I think.
Yeah, that is always the debate, right? Like, what is more important, certifications or super badges, right? And I think you'll ask 5 different people and 5 different people will give you a different answer. And it depends kind of where you are in the ecosystem. I know for some particular roles, those certifications carry a lot of weight. But yes, I agree that the hands-on, that it is very, very important. And it's, to me, will show a little bit more that you know how to actually do the things. Some people are just really, really good test takers. Maybe they have like a photographic memory, whatever it is, right? But yeah, those hands-on words. Dave, you had a comment, and then we'll get to Iris's question.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I talk to folks oftentimes that have gaps in employment. They say, what do I put in my LinkedIn profile? Because I didn't work from point A to point B where I was, raising, a child or whatever it happens to be. I was a caregiver for an elderly parent. I like the fact that you can leverage these alternative work experience methods, technical skills assessments, and you can actually create a period in your professional career that you could call, essentially like consultant, technical, and professional preparation, right? Where, yeah, you're not in a role working for a company, but you are spending, 6 months, a year preparing for a role, and you list those technical skills assessments in there. You list whatever certifications you have, whatever metrics make sense for the preparation, the research that you've done for that path. And then, when you go through the interview, you can say, listen, I spent the past year researching this role and preparing for it, not a gap in employment. It was a calculated, period where I wanted to be able to prepare as best as I could for this future, career path choice. So just a thought there.
I really like that, Dave, because that is many people, whether they're trying to land their first role or whether they're pivoting into a whole new career, they oftentimes will find themselves with some gaps in their resume. So that is great advice. Iris, you had a question or comment?
Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for being here. Like, love what you guys do. And thank you for giving this platform that is just incredible and can lose yourself for several hours or several days. Don't tell people how long I spent on a super badge. Just referring back to what's like that real world scenario, like it's not raining Salesforce jobs anymore. So people are struggling, and it does seem that there's this saturation of the market. Salesforce Ben recently just put out a new article about entry-level roles in the market. And everything that you're saying, like Dave, I loved your comments about how to frame what you're learning into that real-world scenario. What would you kind of suggest? Because people are downloading DevOps and they're trying to track projects, but sometimes they just don't know how to do it. I see a lot of new people. And so I was wondering, are there trails that could maybe give the advice that, like gold advice that Dave just gave about how to frame your trailhead into that kind of language that hiring manager who has no idea what a Superbadge is, because sometimes they've never even heard of Salesforce themselves and they're trying to review, you know what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I go on a little bit sometimes, I apologize.
I think that's a perfect point. And maybe the Superbadges are for you to learn and to demonstrate for yourself. And we get that feedback a lot, is that they're really confidence builders and maybe you're not even presenting them. I will tell you, and this might be part of the answer you're looking for, I hope, is when I've been on hiring panels, the people who have impressed me the most with their technical skills, it is not necessarily because they can program a rocket ship. It's because they understood my business problem to solve. And so if you were to take your dev work, maybe you go through a Superbadge, maybe you study for a certification, maybe you complete a trail, but then you take all of that and you combine it and you look at this prospective job opening and you build out a solution to their problem as far as you can understand it. And then you can come into an interview with a configured solution. And people who have done that have just blown it out of the water. And they've come in and they've said, I've seen something that you have, you're hiring for this role. Here's something that I think could be better. Maybe you've had a customer experience, or maybe you're familiar with, a gap in a service that is being provided. And you come in and you go, I configured an automation that can actually solve for that. I came in and configured an agent that can actually cut down on the time because I had to wait, for my repair for 3 weeks. So I configured this automation, and it's not going to hit exactly, but they're going to see your understanding of the problem and get it and go, like, this person's listening, they're aware, they can take these skills. Maybe you never even say Superbadge, you never even say certification, right? But you can demonstrate that you've got a skill set that you can apply to solve their problem, which is what they're interested in.
I absolutely think that is an outstanding example. But like looking first at that resume, because sometimes people can't even get a foot in the door to get in front of somebody, which is because what it's like LinkedIn puts one junior role on and 3,000 people apply.
I think it's showing up. It's doing these things. It's going to the community events. Yeah. It is absolutely side by side with someone, or showing someone, I have this, I'm creating this solution. Can you help me? I'm genuinely working through this. And you're just showing up very genuinely. Please do not. There used to be advice to go volunteer for a nonprofit and go cats on a keyboard. Don't do that. Don't do that. Kelley, what were you going to say?
I would say do that if that organization is equipped with like a certified Salesforce professional to kind of be the overseer and guider. Still look for those opportunities, but yes, do not just go in and tear up someone's beautiful nonprofit without expert assistance and backup. Jeff had his hand up first, but I do have something to add to this question when you're done, Jeff.
Okay, mine's quick. Back to what Julie's talking about, being able to talk cognitively and coherently about what you're doing in Salesforce. So when I was hiring a bunch of Salesforce developers, I could always tell who was the developer by, I would ask them this question. I say, we all love Salesforce. What features or functions or things do you hate about Salesforce? What drives you crazy? And if they didn't have any answers of what they hated about Salesforce, they were not working on the platform. Because, everyone knows there's things that just drive you nuts. So that's one of the ways you can tell about it. It's actually, someone's actually doing the work.
I have a little bit of a hot take on this, which is, it's happened to me. I probably would do it too if I found myself in the job market right now. Yes, submitting your application through their traditional channels is the way you apply for a job. There is nothing barring you from looking up that company, seeing who works there, seeing if you have any mutual connections, cold call them, make an intro. The worst thing they can do is say no, which if they're already not answering or saying no, you don't really have a whole lot to lose. I mean, don't be spammy, don't be overly, pushy, but try to connect with someone. Maybe you just want to learn more about the company. But yeah, so don't just set it and forget it and think submitting my resume and then I'm not getting answers. There could be more work behind that. You can probably try to do more and they might say yes.
Love
Dave, you had
all these answers. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick comment on Iris's question, then I want to make time for the kind of the close-up final question. So I have a bit of an unconventional view on how to stand out in the marketplace, and I put a comment in there that the folks that are hungry, quote unquote hungry, are the ones that are going to stand out and will always get hired. I came into the ecosystem in 2018-19 when admittedly it was much easier, even though we didn't have Hiring Our Heroes fellowships. There was still more opportunity. And then I came over to Salesforce right at the beginning of COVID, when again Salesforce was hiring a lot of folks. But given that the markets, had some disruption and we've had some layoffs, I still wouldn't do anything different that I did before. I was extremely hungry, right? I was hitting a new Ranger every 2 or 3 months. I was creating content on LinkedIn. I was branding. I was writing posts. I was reaching out to everybody and anybody, growing my network. I was asking for, informational interviews, and I didn't apply for any jobs. 0. I don't recommend you do that. Do not get on LinkedIn and click apply here, or go to the careers page and click apply here. And I tell folks that I mentor, don't do that, because you're just a number at that point and you're probably not going to get hired. It's just, statistically speaking, it's very difficult. You want the employee referral. Go connect with people, create a relationship, talk with them, and then when it makes sense, ask for the employee referral. And it's not a guarantee you're going to get hired, but it is a guarantee that you'll be moved up above the hundreds, maybe thousands of other folks, and you might get a resume to look. And the more times you do that, the better. And I would also say, be resilient and don't give up. I've had folks that I've put in numerous employee referrals for, and they finally got hired. Right? Show up hungry, do your homework, be impressive with your preparation and your customer facing skills, your technical skills, whatever you happen to go for, and don't give up. The code to get a job hasn't changed. It's just tougher now. So you really got to be after it.
Yes, couldn't agree more, Dave. It is. We definitely have empathy. It was a little bit easier, I think, when Dave and I jumped into the ecosystem.
Sure.
So we are all here to support you all. This is a great opportunity for you to connect with people that are pretty high up in the organizations that we bring in speakers for. So really great networking opportunities. And I know I speak for everyone that we are here to help any way that we can and support you. So this time has flown by. Oh my goodness, the conversation has been so great. So we are going to start with our closing question. I know we've covered a lot of ground and you all have given us some amazing insights. And I know this will be a very much watched session after the fact. So what closing thoughts or advice do you have for our audience today? And let's start, we'll go the same order. Let's start with Jeff.
I would dovetail what David said. If you're starting out, I would go through Trailhead and I would write blog posts. I would write LinkedIn posts explaining how to do things, how you did things, what the gotchas are. I used to be really good at taking a process and finding bits and pieces from Salesforce's docs and putting together in a coherent manner. I would do videos on YouTube of showing things. I would become an expert at what I'm doing. And maybe it's like you're the flow expert, or maybe you're the, I don't know, some AI expert. I don't know, but take a sphere that interests you and become an expert at that. People are going to start seeing that. And then also go on the forums and answer questions where it's applicable. Provide input with people, help them solve their problems. And people will notice that.
Julie.
100%. I did want to say, when you're saying should it be certification or super badge, I will say, as the parent of 2 drivers, that's great that they pass their exam and they know what the different signs are. I want to see them drive a car and do that safely. So I'm going to say it's not either or. I'm going to say it's a yes and both. And I would just say show up as your real and honest and true self, and ask people for advice, not for direct help, but ask them for feedback. Send them a draft of your blog post. Send them a quick video and just be like, could you look through this solution that I'm going to post? Does it look okay? Here's a flow thing. We've got some flow product managers who are just putting out amazing things on LinkedIn. And, just asking them like, hey, I think what you said meant this, so I configured a solution. Is this right? Just try it and just ask for their thoughts and feedback.
Love that, Kelley.
You are more than your Trailhead badges, your certifications, and your Superbadges. You bring so much to the table that people need and want in their company and their company culture. So your skills, your prior experience, your background, your energy, your bad dad jokes, all of that. You're like a whole package. So don't lose sight of that. Like certifications and Salesforce experience are tools in your toolbox, but remember that like you are the sum of all of those things, and that's what makes you valuable.
Heartstrings, Kelley, thank you. Thank you. Some of us need it. It's early. It's 7 a.m. here in Tokyo. So I needed that for my motivation for today. So before we close, I'd like to thank Jeff, Julie, Kelley for co-hosting tonight's session. It has been awesome having you all here, getting your perspectives on how individuals can break into this ecosystem, use some of this alternative work experience to really land their first job or their next job. With that, thank you all so much for attending. I hope to see you all next session, which will be on Data Cloud. Shameless plug. And everyone have a great Wednesday night.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Have a great
Stay
day.
safe.
Good luck.
See you next time.